Okay, so let us see this one now. Let us say I have student and say I have now student ID, student name, then I have, let me say I have list of addresses. Okay, now I'll have now kind of setter and getter methods. Right? So I have like this. Now this is, if you see, this is a list of address type. This is a string, this is a string, this is a list of address type. So for address, we'll have one more class address. You have like string, door number, street number, right? And then I have, right, area. Then I have string, city. Okay. Then I'll have zip code. Okay, pin code or zip code. Okay, like this. Now we'll have setters and getters. So for these properties, I'll have public setters and getters. Right. Now I have to create an object, right, for this. So what I'll do, now I'll say student. So new student, student dot set student ID of yes100, student dot set student name. I'll say some Ravi. Okay. Then what I'll do, I'll create an address object. Address, present address, or communication address. Communication address. Okay, then I'll say new address. Then I'll say communication address dot set door number. I'll say some D100. Next, communication address dot set street number. I'll say yes100 or yes1, I'll say. Next, communication address dot set area. Okay. Something like AK Nagar. Something like this. Then I'll say communication dot set address. Okay, I'll just put Hyderabad. Okay, just this I'll put SR Nagar or something like this. And then I'll put communication address dot I don't know what is the pin code of this. I'll give some, right? Pin code, something like I'll give some 5 lakh, some, don't know, 35, just. Okay, so this is one thing. Next, what I'll do. Okay. This is set city, right? Now I'll create one more address, permanent address. Permanent address, right? I'll give some F1, yes, something like 14, some Gandhi Nagar, something like this. Vijayawada. I don't know what is a pin code. I'm giving some, I'm not sure. Okay. Just this might be wrong pin code. Just for a program only. Okay? So then what I'll do now, I'll say list of addresses equal to new array list. And I'll say addresses dot add of communication addresses dot add of next permanent address. Then I'll say student dot set addresses of addresses. Right. Yeah. Just see this program once. Any doubt in this program? Any doubts? Everyone clear? Just 2 minutes, sir. So what address get for student? It is a list, right? It is a list of addresses, right? So list will contain both address objects, right? So what you are doing here? See, this is a plain core Java program. So what you have done, you created a student object. In this, you have set student ID as S100, student name as Ravi. Okay. Then what you have done, then you created one address object, right? You created one address object, which is your communication address. Right. In this communication address, what you have done, you have set this door number, this one, all these properties. Similarly, you created one more address object, which is your permanent address. Right. And sorry. Oh, okay. I think I forgot here. What I forgot? This is not communication address, right? This is permanent address. Right. Right. This will be permanent address. Right. Hmm. Right. So now I create an array list object. Is an array list. In this, first I'm adding communication address. First I'm adding communication address. That is this object. This object. Next I'm adding permanent address in the second index. That means this object. Right. Now this array list where I'm setting, this I'm setting here. So addresses. Addresses is pointing to the array list. Everyone clear? Now how to write, how this JSON will be converted now for the student class? So the student class now will have JSON object, right? So it will have now Anything starts with end. Okay. Starts with this. I allow student ID. Let me write here. Let me write here. Student ID. I'll say yes 100. Next student name. I'll say Ravi. Right? Then I'll say now address. Addresses, right? Addresses is what? A list, right? What is addresses? Addresses is a list. List means it is an array, JSON array. It is a JSON array containing again containing an address object. Now, if you see here, it is a JSON array, right? Containing a JSON containing an address object. That means it starts with again a JSON string. Now we'll have door number, right? Okay. What is door number? Door number D100. So D100, right? Next. Okay, street number. S1. Next area. SR. Next city. Right? Next pin code. Next I'll say 500035. Right? So this is what we have for this one. Now I'll have one more JSON. One more JSON with door number, permanent address, right? F10, street number, '14, area, so right. So then I'll just close this. Right. That's all. So then I'll close this. Right. Now, if you see here, this is actually, if you see here, this is a string. So this is a string for student ID. For student name, this is a string. Now this address is a list containing again address objects. That means a list means it starts with JSON array. Now this JSON array contains one address object. This is one address object. This is another address object. So this is one JSON address object. This is another JSON address object. Right? So this array starts here, ends here. Now this is one element in the array, comma, this is another element in the array. And now this is the end of this JSON. Here it starts, here it ends. This is your student JSON. Everyone understood this? Everyone clear? Everyone clear with this structure? Right. So now everyone understood. We have seen from last 2 days how to convert Java to how a Java object is mapped to a JSON. Everyone understood this scenarios? How a Java object is mapped to JSON. Now let us now see the practical examples. So whatever we have seen is get mapping student, right? I'll add some more. Now what I'll do is I'll add here. Address, student address. I'll create now one class called address. I'll add list of address. So address new class address. Then I'll say private string door number, private string house number, private string street name. Sorry, we'll say what I've done. Street number, right? Street number, area, right? So I'll say private string area, city pin code, private string city pin code. Right. So let me now put generate setters and getters. Control X. Now what I'll do is here in my student, I'll remove this part. I'll generate setters and source. Generate getters and source. Right. So here what I'll do, I'll say address, communication address, new address. So I'll say communication address dot set door number, something like D100. Communication address dot set street number S100. Communication address dot set area I'm going to show you practical. Communication address dot set city. I'll say Hyderabad. Communication address dot set of. See, ideally we should get this from database, but I'm hard coding. Okay. Set pin code. I give some 5500 some 32 something like this. And similarly, I'll add one more for permanent address, right? This is your permanent address. This is 1, 2, something like F12. Okay, just tell me. 512 51602. Right. Then what I'll do, I'll create one list of address, new array list. So addresses dot add of communication addresses dot add of permanent address. Then student dot set address of address. That's all. Okay. Now, if I run this program, I'll start it. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I'll say localhost 8080 slash Spring Rest demo 1. Yeah, student, right? Student. Now you see, I got the JSON. So if I go to your format, I told you, right, JSON lint is one tool where you can neatly format it. Now you see, I got this. See, if I compare here, the same thing I got, right? Right, if you see here, it starts with a brace. Whatever I explained you, it starts with a brace, ends with a brace. And I got student ID, student name. Now addresses, whatever addresses that starts with an array. Here also it starts with an array, square bracket, and ends with square bracket. Inside the square bracket, here I put in a new line. Here it has come here. See, it is a free form language, okay? So it starts with no brace. I mean, it starts with a square bracket. This will contain now one JSON object separated by another JSON object. This is your present address. This is your permanent address. Any doubts here? See, this is what you call it as Get request. Okay, we are actually, ideally this should connect to a database. Actually, to connect to database and get this data. We know this, right? How we'll connect to database and get data using Hibernate and all. Now, suppose I want to create some data. That means I have a client now. From my client, I use a HTTP GET call. HTTP GET call, get student. So here you'll have a get mapping. Here you'll have a get mapping. Get mapping student. Right. So where this will connect to the database, get the data and give it back as a JSON response like this. It gives a JSON response. Right? Like this it will give. And how it is converted to JSON response? Here there will be a converter. The Jackson library, I told you, right? So this converter will convert Java object to JSON. Now, suppose now I want to issue a post request. Suppose I have an Angular client or some JavaScript client. Right? Now I will just send now a post request. Post means I want to create a new student. I want to create a new student. Okay, from your user interface. I added the student details. I clicked on submit. Now it will go to a new request. That is a new student will be created. HTTP. It is a post request. And in the post request, I should always send a JSON. I should send a request body. So for REST APIs, we send as a JSON string. Okay. Whatever this kind of JSON string will send, but with a different data. Okay. I want to create now student, not with Pradeep. I want to add some new student. Now here we'll have a REST mapping. Here I will have a REST API. Now here I'll use post mapping. Post mapping, I'll say now /student. Now there will be a converter now. Here there will be a converter now. Okay. Before reaching this method, there will be a converter now, which converts JSON string to Java object. This converter now will convert Java object to JSON. Now this converter will convert JSON string. JSON string, when it reaches here, it has to be Java object. Now here it will be Java object. Now this will pass as a Java object. Java object. And once the data is there in Java object, you can call the getter methods of this, get the values, and then store this in your database. So it's the same converter. Your Jackson converter, when it sends the JSON, when it sends the returns a Java object, it will convert Java object to JSON and sends as a JSON response. Now, when our client sends JSON string, okay, this converter will convert JSON string to Java object and see. We'll see this post mapping now. See, to test a post mapping, post request, we cannot test in the browser. See, for browser, we can test only the GET request. If you invoke the URL, it will be GET request. For post request, either you should have a Angular client or JavaScript client using this, But now we can use some tools like Postman. We have tools like Postman, okay, or advanced REST client, okay, to test this. See, if you go to, you can install Postman also. Postman download. So you can download this Postman, where you can test all these REST APIs. So I sent to everyone in the chat. I already have a Postman. Right? I already have a Postman. So let me give post request. And here I'll say HTTP localhost 8080, right? Okay, I did not write the post request. Let me write the post request. So I'll just say post mapping. This will be post mapping. Here I'll say public student. I'll say public string. Here I'll say create student. And here I'll say request body. Okay, student. That means whatever the JSON string that is coming, your converter will convert that to student object here. So this request body will be mapped with the JSON string. That means whatever the JSON string that is sending, your converter will convert that to student object. Okay. So now I can just print this. Ideally should have a DB logic, database logic, to add student details to database. But now what I'll do is I'll just print this. Okay. System.out.println student dot get student name. I'll just print this. Okay. And here I'll say return student created. Right. I'm returning a string. Now let me now I'll say post. Okay. This is your post request. Here I can select a post, and I can use localhost 80, how you're typing in the browser, /student, right? And now I'll say click on body, raw. I'll select now here JSON, body raw, and here I'll send the request body. So I'll take this one. I'll take the same format. Your structure, because your student object is in this structure, right? But I'll change the values. So I'll say yes, some 203. Pradeep, I'll say some Rajsekhar. Door number, I'll say some 102. Street number, some 105. Something like Amirpet. Okay. Similarly, door number here, I'll say 120. Some 98. Something like VB Nagar. Right? Something like Hyderabad. Something like I'm just giving some number 50090. Something like this. Okay, I'm giving this. Okay, now I just send. Now I issue a post request. This is your URL for post, right? This is the URL, right? Post request, it will come here. Now this JSON string will be automatically converted to the student object. Okay, that converter will convert, that Jackson converter. Now let me know issue send. I got some error. Localhost 8080/student. Okay, I think Spring REST demo one I should give. Sorry. That Spring REST. This web application name I should give, right? I'll give now. Now I got student created. Now if I see him, I'm able to print. Okay, Raj Sekar 203. So whatever I entered here, the student name, student ID, this got printed. So whatever the JSON string I'm passing here, see, ideally this will be, see, this is to test your API, but ideally this will come from your Angular application or a React.js application, right? And the converter will convert so to the student object. So there, the Jackson converter will convert. So it'll convert the JSON string to Java object. Okay. Any doubts here till now? Everyone clear? So whenever you are sending a post request, you should always use this request body. Okay, this annotation is compulsory. So whenever you're using post mapping, so this request body is compulsory, because whatever the JSON string your client is sending, that will be converted to the student object. Now you see, whatever the JSON string I sent here, I'm able to read from the student object. You see, I'm able to read the data. See. Everyone clear? Any doubts here? Okay, so I'll stop here. So tomorrow onwards, I'll be telling you Spring Boot. So one of the very popular, not one of the very important, very important technology called Spring Boot. So which is very latest in the market, in the job market. Okay. So 80% of the jobs, they will be asking Spring Boot actually. Okay. Spring, if you know Spring Boot, your job is guaranteed. So tomorrow onwards, I'll be explaining you Spring Boot. Okay, Google Class password. I don't have. I think you will have Google Class password yours own actually. Google Class password, you'll be having your own Gmail password. That is your password. Okay, so tomorrow onwards, I'll be telling you Spring Boot. Very important. Okay, so without Spring Boot, it is very difficult to crack the interviews. So tomorrow I'll be telling you that Spring Boot. Okay. So you don't understood the RESTful web services, everything.